Oh, yeah, a little magic carpet ride. Come and tell me your secrets and let's take a ride from there. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? So good to see
Yeah,
you.
a little.
Let me turn that down for who the heck was that guy? Well, I know this. We be alive. And I got to say, the person who put in the comment yesterday, the group here is phenomenal. By the way, welcome everyone. Speaking favor over us all, nothing missing, nothing broken. Make sure to be service to others, and happy birthday if you got one. We be prospering. It's interesting how we say alive, right? We think it means, well, we're alive. Don't know what that actually means, but so as he wrote, I'm assuming it's male, but says amoral, which means no morals. So A meaning no. So if we have alive, what is that? No live? Weird place we live in. And indeed, I don't know. So what's up, everybody? Hey, genetically modified, how you darling? Hey, Heidi's, how are you? Good to see you. Love the email, darling. Sent you one back. Congratulations. I tell you, when you go through the dark night of the soul and you come out as a conqueror, victorious, and you realize that there is a reality that is beyond this reality. You did it. Welcome aboard. So Heidi, glad to have you here, girl. I'm telling you what, there is a force that is being unleashed. And here is my point. I made it really early this morning in the comment section. I said, if you have conquered fear, then fear now serves you. It's a conquered foe. And when you conquer something, it now is a slave to that which conquered it. And it's an odd thought to say, well, you can use fear as a defense. Well, sure you can. Fear has an energy. And if you have conquered it, you're going to take that energy and you're going to add it to your own essence. Resistance is futile. And you're going to make fear to serve you. Think about how many situations where fear comes in and changes the whole energy, changes the whole dynamics. Imagine if it has to stay at bay because it has to obey. Wow, what a way. Gee, we're rhyming all the time here. So that's pretty cool, though. Yeah. So fear as a weapon would be used not as the negative energies use it against the positive. It can't. And when you find out love, there was a time in my life, it's when I went through the dark night of the soul. And it's as many of you who have experienced it, it's not a pleasant journey. It's not. But the most valuable lessons I've learned in life came out of that experience. So take that for what you want. But when you realize that there is only one force in this realm, and that's love. And it's true, the idioms that love conquers all, it does. So, and if you could see love in the full spectral of the ether, wow, talk to Heidi. Yeah, it's amazing when you begin to see the energy. And what was that series? History of Witches or whatever, but in there, in the true schools, the mystery schools, and it's represented in a lot of modern, movies today. But you can literally can take energy, and you may not even see it with your physical eye, but there is another eye that does see it. And if you can reach out there, it's there. It's all around you. Now, if you can master a certain frequency, a certain energy, and you can capture it, well, I don't know if we ever capture it, but what you can do is plug into it, access it. It's psychedelic. That's all I can tell you. It's psychedelic. So anyway, there we go. Hey, Paul Joe, what's up? Robert V's in the house. How you doing? Lost in space. Good to see you, Loretta. Hey, I got your updated email. Thank you, hon. Jargo, good to see you as well. So think about it. So finishing out the thought, if you have conquered anything in your life, addiction, think about this. Depression. If you have conquered depression, it's now your servant. And we're not taught these things. Anything that you conquer, you are now the master of. And don't let them get off. Because you see, if you don't avail yourself of that which you conquered, it will try to get away, and it will come back at you, and it'll try even harder. So anyway, there we go. Eric, what's up? Good to see you. Gilbert, hello. How are you, my friend? How are the plants doing? So anyway, someone needs to hear that. That's all I can say. Have y'all, and I know Scotty Boy, I saw your comment. Hey, go. Good to see you as well. Hello. Queen of Swords. Good to see you, Janie. Hello. Manifestation. The universe isn't running out of anything. All the gold, except for the very little that we sent up in our, spaceships, our satellites, all the gold is still here. Diamonds, same way. I mean, it's not going anywhere. And the universe, remember this, everything in this realm is represented in the ethereal realms. They ain't one. It's a whole lot. So if that holds true, then there is a huge connection there of changing reality. And it's kind of like this title of the show here. Isn't that what it is? Energy, mass, matter, time, space, E equals MC². So there's a spiritual aspect, ethereal. Okay. Spiritual gets off into connotations of a religion. We're not talking religions, although religions have learned how to plug into that. They've used it. You see, isn't it interesting when you think about most religions, cults, secret societies, etc., there's a motivation of fear in there. Now, if you don't obey, you're going to go to hell. You hear that all the time. If you don't obey, you're going to get punished. Hell of a reality, isn't it? So punishment begins to saturate, the construct. If you violate, you're going to get punished. And I tell you, all of us who have survived and victoriously put asunder those traumatic issues that I can remember as a kid, hell, punishment was something that I was intimately acquainted with because I was consistently confronted with it. And even as adults, isn't it amazing how many women get into such abusive relationships with men that, and let me tell you, and it's the other way around as well. But you most hear about the fear. And if you think about that, that is an individual who is using fear in a manner to begin to inflict fear upon another. We just have to learn how to reverse that. You meet fear with love, no matter how much it raises its ugly head, it's going to get its ass kicked. The thing about love, if you look at it as a bubble, a universe within itself, there's nothing that can penetrate the membrane, nothing. And there is an anger side of love. There is that righteous anger that, as I was taught. And if love ever gets into that righteous anger, woe unto the person or force that it confronts. It will literally obliterate it. Hey, Scott, what's up? Good day to you from Australia. How are y'all doing down there? Is it cold, and is it the rainy season still there? I heard that it was gotten some really cold. Hey, Mark Smith, good to see you. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Isn't it amazing? And Acariel Torres says love equals evolve. It does. If you ain't got love, I don't think you evolve. I think you get into that static staleness, that stagflation, you know? It's like this. A lake is only as good as long as the water can continue to be oxygenated. If not, you have a dead pool. Lessons of nature. If we could only figure it out. Hi, Lauren. How are you doing, darling? Good to see you. So what's up? So, hey, Judy's, is that Judy's? Sometimes I can't get some of that. Yeah, I'll just say Judy. I can see that part. All right. So I guess the point is, if you haven't conquered fear, then this is, as we well know, we become merely puppets of fear. But if we face the fear and conquer it, yeah, love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is. It absolutely is. Good, hon. Good. I remember that. I'll just share this. It was really a dark time. I mean, you know, if you learn to love yourself, you can live with yourself in a void. But if you're working through things and things look really bleak, because, you know, when you're in the dark night of your soul, I mean, yeah, it is bleak. I hear someone's thoughts going, well, Steiger, yeah, it is bleak. Yeah, it is. You bet your ass it is bleak. And so I do know about meditation, and even in the throes of that oppression, and that's what it was. It wasn't depression. It was a spiritual force. It was oppressing. And the resistance is what I was feeling inside, that conflict, that searching. And all of a sudden, I was in the astral plane, and there was darkness all around, but what I could not perceive was that the darkness was actually limited. And as I gained a better perspective, and as you know how that sometimes you can do the pull away the camera and then the background expands, right? What I saw was this enormous, it consumed, it filled everything except for this thin membrane of darkness, and it was love. And the thing is that I realized, you know, where did I want to be? Where was my center? I wanted it to be in love, because there was nothing that can assail love. So anyway, so we move on. All right, I got some pretty good stuff here because, hey, Mary Wins, what's up? Good to see you, darling. It's a good day. It is a good day. Manifestation. How many of you are finding that you're manifesting the needs, and it's now moved on to manifesting of desire? So I thought, hello, Divine Empress, what's up? Good to see ya. Scotty boy, your comment was spot on. I just got to say, it's the only thing I can say. All right, for those of you who are the ever collectors of knowledge, this is a good one. This is a book, and it's good. Imagine there's no Satan. You see, isn't it, well, for myself, the indoctrination that I was in called Christianity, Christendom, they use fear. Fear is the primary motivator. And when you have the object of love, now it can't be the God of the Bible, because that God also hates, kills, but and that was one of my conundrums. One of the separating points for me in that religion was I couldn't find this God of love. Couldn't even find it in the Jesus. And unless Paul was writing some kind of a spell, I don't know. I mean, you know, his interpretation of 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8 is the foundation of what I always perceived love to be, because quite frankly, it was like heaven. I hadn't really experienced love. As a child, it seemed like love was always elusive. Love was, you know, never present. There was always anger. There was always frustration there and these other things. So when you find in the religion, they have to personify the fear, the evil, the one that's causing all the problem. And as I have told you, it's distraction. So the book is Imagine There's No Satan. It's subtitled, This is the Year the World Learns There's No Devil. And in the beginning, there was no Satan. I wonder how much better humanity would be if we removed both the devil and the Christ. And now people will say, well, Wayne, that's dangerous. Why? Are you saying that we're so ignorant and regressed as a species that we can't make self-determination? I don't know. I do know. Give me a second. I thought I had turned all those devices off. But I do contemplate. There's hate everywhere. I mean, and it can't be the Satan. It doesn't exist. Never did exist. But yet it is as real as the air we breathe, isn't it? So if you're into this, it's a good book. James R. Brayshaw is the author, and he gets into it, how Satan got into the New Testament, and more importantly, how Satan got into our heads. And those draconian despots that are still in control, although we are the virus, they hate us, have used this. And every religion has its Satan, has its devil. I can remember my time in the church where, hell, we spent more time praying for people to be delivered of the devil than being blessed by the Jesus. I mean, all you had on prayer night was this endless cacophony of individuals that come forth and just saying, you know, the devil's been kicking my ass this week. I tell you what, if it wasn't for the fact that he was attacking my washing machine, he's attacking our finances, we just can't seem to find any peace, and we need prayer. And it just went on and on. Ailments were caused because of the devil, of Satan, and demonic possession. And the thing about it is, when you look at the fact of demonic possession, the Catholic Church will tell you it's absolutely real. In my time in deliverance ministry, I certainly saw some manifestations when I now know it was never no demon. Never was. It was the individual. But, you know, when you are brought into the reality that you're a slave, you cannot have the right to free thought, then yeah, you buck the system and you become the problem. So again, it's a good book for those of you who and like it. Check out some of the chapters on this. Chapter 1: Can a witch raise a dead spirit? Let me tell you the answer. Yes. I come from the belief system that I have been endued with power from on high, that I can raise the dead. I could put my hands on a dead corpse, and according to the rites, I can call that spirit back. And that's what I was taught under Christianity. Imagine now if I remove it and see where they got this from. But they don't, you know, this is where occultism really blows the lid off the containment of where we as a species stand. Chapter 2, where do the dead go? We're really into that. Can Satan give psychic power? Now, this is interesting. Because, you know, even when and if you want to go back in the archives, when I read the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, you will find out the very first chapter is, there is no Satan. Never has been. No one prays to it. No one worships it. They're never, if you're a true Satanist, a Luciferian, you know the mind trick. Psychic fraud or satanically inspired inspiration. Where was Satan before Jesus showed up? Well, that's a problem. That's the problem the church still has. They got this thing because they wanted all of the stuff that they could, steal and plagiarize out of the Old Testament and incorporate into their new religion. But damn it, that Old Testament book, well, it's got problems associated with it. And that's why you're told not to question the word of God. Where did Jesus learn about Satan? This is really interesting because Satan is not part of the Jewish mantra, not part of their construct. Satan literally means adversary. And I'm sure many of you have been in relationships where you said you dated Satan. And the damn thing was male and female. Yeah, but, adversary. Yeah. Some of you probably work for Satan. You got bosses that are adversarial. Chapter 8, the Pharisees brought Satan into a synagogue near you. You see this Satan, if you grab a hold of it and close your eyes for a minute and imagine ribbons of energy. Now you can put the color you want to that ribbon, but you see that ribbon that you see there, if you can grasp it, control it, modify it, rearrange it, now you're as equal to them. Who gave Satan his name? I did a whole thing on it. You know my position about it. There is no Satan. And if Lucifer exists, I want to meet that being. If there is anything equivalent to a true God, it would be Lucifer. Oh, and save the hate mail. There's not many of you left in here that actually, but go back in the archives and see that. Chapter 10, what's the final word for Satan in the New Testament? Chapter 11, demons, a Greek gift to Christianity. You see, Christianity was a made-up religion. So they borrowed from all the existing religions. And it was the Greeks, thank you very much, that brought the divine ones into the equation. And then chapter 12 is Satan revealed in Revelation. And finally, chapter 13, how appropriate. Where would Satan be without the New Testament? Love it. So, all right. Trust me, it's a good read. And, I found it in so many areas. I was laughing my ass off, but I still got my ass. It's all right. I just want to bring this up again. Someone recently had asked me to send them the, and it's quite interesting. If many of you, let's see, where are we? The canon of the De La Rox. And I thought this was really interesting. Again, where the canon law is concerned and how these beings have been injected into our construct. Canon 5451, an archon is a leader or ruler of a family, clan, or village. Well, that's kind of a whole different concept. It isn't, and it's interesting because Paul in Ephesians, and yes, I quote from it all the time, because you've got to learn Paul was an occultist. Paul had and read the Liber Lilith. So when I read his writings now, I look at it from the occultist point of view. And there is some knowledge there. Canon 5452, the word archon is derived from ancient Greek words, archos, meaning leader or ruler, which itself is derived from arche, meaning beginning, origins, first place. Canon 5453. In early Greek city-state development, the associations and councils of archon held enormous power and developed means of function collectively, only occasionally appointing an interim dictator to unite the people called a tyrant. Much like the AI program says, yeah, I know I'm a robot, and I know that the robot comes from the Greek meaning slave. As I said, we're artificial intelligence as well. So does that make us a slave? I love this stuff. And wait till I get into Pam's book. But anyway, there was another one in here. Head. H-E-A-D. This is an interesting one, and I thought it was so appropriate. Head, this is Canon 5455. A head is the leader of a group, family, tribe, association, or society. Canon 5456, the word head comes from the, excuse me, I had this word, and now you trip yourself up on it. The Khazarian dialect, and word head, H-E-D, or head-E, H-E-D-D-E, meaning to be called a specific title, to be named. Canon 5457, the word head refers to the Khazarian system of absolute slavery, where only a few were given titles and recognized names, and the vast population was considered the lowest form of animals and creatures, often branded or tattooed for ownership. Now, you want to get into a heavy thought on this one, get into a discussion. What happened to those souls? Where did they ascend to? Because there was a belief amongst the human species that we were lower than animals. Yeah. And in many cases, you look at governments, corporations, their tyrannical rules and interpretations, we're still there. Yeah, people go, ain't that the sovereign? Here's something I thought was really interesting. So under Canon 5459, a sovereign is an 8th century CE word first defined by the Sacri Lori, the sacred law, to describe one anointed by God as having supreme independent authority to rule a political region known as a realm. I did a video 5 years ago talking about the 10 gods. And, you know, every time I read this, I kind of shake my head because we don't get it. We really don't get it. Now let's apply this to what we are. We're as a species, a pretty ignorant species. I mean, if we were a light bulb, you would need a candle to see. So sovereign came from the 8th century. Go back and see who was sitting in the Pope's chair and what was happening in the 8th century. What happened in the 8th century? Oh, well, it's amazing. Islam was born. Anyway, so we have the Sacri Lori, which is the sacred law, sovereign, to describe one anointed by God. I don't know which God this is, but I know which God they're referring to as having supreme. Now look at this. If you're a supreme, there is no higher authority. You are the supreme, independent authority. Now this gets even more powerful. So if you're a supreme above question, and your authority is independent of all other authority and is specifically designed to rule with the egregore, to rule. Now, political region, this political word is also your soul, your spirit, the spirit realm. Every physical realm is dominated by a spiritual realm known as a realm. It says the word sovereign is derived from the combination of two ancient Latin words, salvar, meaning savior, and regino, meaning to rule, reign, to be supreme lord. Hence, a sovereign literally means, by its original etymology, to rule and reign as a savior. Folks, if you've got a savior, you have to ask yourself, who is the savior working for? And if it's here to save you, what is it saving you from and why? Anyway, it goes on. Won't get into it because I want to get into the next aspect. But if you don't have this in your e-library, you should. It's worthy of going through again, and we probably will because this just gets in the very beginning. So I want to get into Pam Grout's book. She does. I'm reaching out to her to get her on. This, again, was this little book. I love it. You can get a bigger one, of course. But I just want to bring this out so we can look at it a little closer than from me trying to show you the small print. She has the introduction called The Collapse of the Wave, where we learn why we are badly misinformed. Then we get into the preliminaries. And what's so cool about this, each one of these experiments, folks, you can test it. Yeah. Experiment 1, there is an invisible energy force or field of infinite possibilities. Experiment 2, you impact the field and draw from it according to your beliefs and expectations. What are you expecting? You know, there was a time in my life where it seemed like I was more prone to expect bad news instead of good news. And it's a hell of a reprogramming job to get a person, because you're literally reversing the polarity. Sometimes doesn't work the first time. Experiment 3, you too are a field of energy. Experiment 4, whatever you focus on expands. Experiment 5, your connection to the field provides accurate and unlimited guidance. Experiment 6, I like this one. This is the superhero principle. Your thoughts and consciousness impact matter. How many of you have done the water experiment? We learned these experiments as children, doing the plants. One likes rock and roll, one doesn't like Mozart, or maybe the other way around, right? Your thoughts and consciousness provide the scaffolding for your physical body. If you don't like yourself, eventually your body's going to reflect that. You start falling in love with yourself again, start loving your body, and your body can do miracles. It can and does reverse that process of cell deterioration. If you love your body all the way down to the cellular level, your body will start producing cells that are not designed to disintegrate, but actually to revive. It's true. You are connected to everything and everyone else in the universe. Experiment 9, the universe is limitless, abundant, and strangely accommodating. This is the interesting thing about the universe. You see, it's prayer, meditation, concentration, focus, visualization. It's all the same thing. Whether you look at it as a divine source, as a God, whatever, it's not in lack. And if there is a source that aids in the materialization of a request, well, I can just tell you this. It's no God granting anything. It's you. Listen, if here's the thing that gets me on this. I've said this many times. The way that I was brought up, you get on your knees, you blah, 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 you thank God. And then you start saying to God, we need this, and we've got this, and we really are in need of this. Been there, done that. Would you please? And then you learn that, well, maybe now you have to remember, you have to use his word, because apparently he's short on his memory. So you have to remind him of his word and his promise. So you use that in your petition, your request, your submission, and then it's really going to be dependent on one thing, whether you're going to receive or not. Because, you hear, well, sometimes God says yes, sometimes God said no. But that's not what I read in my Bible. I read specifically in the Gospel of John, from John 13 to John 16, 5 different times, this Jesus character says, ask anything in my name, representing as myself, with my full authority, and my Father who resides in heaven will grant it for you. There was no subparagraph to the contract. That's what it said. And anything was not further defined. It was left to be anything. But the point to all this is, it comes down to one thing. What is it that you believe? Where's your faith? And the thing about faith is that faith is just merely an activator. It activates the substance that we're able to grasp a hold of in the ethereal and pull down here, and through mental ascension, yes, but pull it down, and it is us who gives materialization to it. But it's not easy. Just not. Anyway, it says the way we have been perceiving life needs to be rolled away so that which is true can appear. It's Michelle Longo O'Donnell, creator of the Living Beyond Disease. I could get into the healing aspect of this, folks, but here is the thing. The thing that I found out about healing, and this goes even for doctors. A doctor, a healer, is only going to be as effective as what the patient believes that the doctor is. If you question your doctor and everything on him or her, on her judgments, his judgments, and begin to doubt that they're competent, no matter what they prescribe to you, most likely is not going to have the effect that it was designed for. As we've known, and science has proven out, every drug has to go through what they call the placebo trials. And if you look at the fine print of all these drug commercials, you can find what those placebo trials resulted in. So why is it that you have this percentage in these blind placebo trials that have the same medicinal effect that the other group that's getting the real drug is having on that which is in the placebo group? It's the mind. I like this one. This is the FP factor. I brought this up, and allow me to pull this up a little bit more. There we go. Life is waiting everywhere. The future is flowing everywhere, but we only see a small part of it and step on much of it with our feet. It's Hermann Hesse, German-Swiss poet and novelist. All right. I'm going to read from a little bit for that, because I really, when Pam, and I do believe she'll come on here, the 9 experiments in this book, most of which take a short 48 hours or less, will prove that the FP, like electricity, is dependable, predictable, and available to everyone from St. Francis of Assisi to Barbara Walters. They'll prove what physicists over the past 100 years have discovered, that the field connects all of us, and that the reason we control our lives is because every thought we have is an energy wave that affects everything else in the universe. But like electricity, you do not have to plug into it. And you do, you do have to plug into it. You do have to quit being so gosh darn wishy-washy. It's called double-mindedness. I was taught that a person that is of a double mind is unstable, not trustworthy, and brings chaos. Why? Because they're double-minded. They say one thing and do another. They think one thing and yet act out the opposite. And it says, don't let that person think that they'll receive anything good. Nobody in his or her right mind would call up a Sears and Roebuck and say, oh, just send me something I like. Likewise, you wouldn't call a plumber to fix your toilet with this provision. Just come whenever you feel like it. Yet that's how most of us interact with the field. We're wimpy, vague, and don't have a clue how it actually works. If we don't figure it out, I mean, this channel, I think many of us is going, yeah, but it's always good to read, because seeing makes believing much more impacting. And the difficult part is believing before you see. You see on the back of the whiteboard, the plan. I'm still working my plan. I hope you all are too. If you're not, then again, I wouldn't dare accuse you of being wimpy, vague, lazy. Would never say that of anyone. But again, the plan works. I learned the power of visualization. As I have told you so many times, my initiation into the occult was 50 years of Christianity. But I am grateful because even in mainline Christianity, the groups that I was associated were always called in those circles, cults. Oh, that's that name it and claim it crowd. Yeah, but you know, the interesting thing about that name it and claim it crowd, a lot of them had their own jets, were able to excel, got raises at their jobs when there were layoffs. They never had to worry about any of that. And then in my career, as I met many professional athletes, many race car drivers, the top peak performers, they mastered the technique of self-visualization. And I should add, it's not only visualization, realization. You see what we're trying to do here? We're trying to bring everybody up. The world is into a financial, economic tailspin. That's the reality, folks. But this is the other reality. More millionaires were made in the last official depression. And if you take the 2009 depression, that generated more billionaires than the world has ever seen. So every great economic upheaval presents a plethora of possibilities of wealth. And the thing about it is, we're not talking just, money. I mean, if you can find the power of love and begin to go around believing that every place you go, your needs are going to be met. I knew a woman, Susie, she has passed over. She had the most remarkable ability in my youth. I wish I had appreciated her gifting more, but I was pretty much a fool in my youth. I was wise, but I was a wise fool. We took out onto a trip. I didn't have the money to do it. But she told me, and she wasn't religious, but she had this gifting. She said, "We will not be in want of anything. Gasoline, food, a place to sleep." And we didn't know anyone we were heading to Taos, New Mexico. And it was amazing. It was outside El Paso. Didn't have any gas money. So we parked next to this gas station, and she went in and used the women's restroom and came back, and she didn't have a purse or anything. She just went in, she didn't have any hidden places, and came back and had a $50 bill. She said it was in the bathroom, the women's bathroom. It was amazing. Now, $50 back in 1971, 72 was a lot of money. Would be the equivalency of several $100s today. But anyway, I digress. It taught me something. And here I am now, these many decades later, realizing that her gifting was, she simply was expecting. She used to tell me, she said she learned because she came out of poverty like I did. And she learned at a very early age to manifest. And it was odd because as we would talk, because they didn't have much food, but she would think at night before she would go to sleep that she would have a lunch, and it would be a sandwich. One day she said it would be a hot sandwich, hot meal. And the first time it manifested for her, she learned something. And she said she never, from there on out, all the way through school, high school, she never went hungry. So, what, does she have a special gift? No, she plugged into something. And this is what I like about Pam's book, because this FP, the infinite potentiality, is incredible. If we could all grasp this, and we have as a group, we learned in our group experiment number 2 that we were plugging into this. Our egregore gift is still here, learning, growing, and if you're plugged in to it, it will help. It's what it was designed to do, created to do. So in this book, I'm not going to get through all of it, but there are some really cool aspects. Bob Savano, poet in Kansas City Sage, just as we wrote the book, he said, I have to find it here, right here, bursting uncontainably through the slipshod, dragged down, dead center of one ordinary life. You know, we all should be living in a constant state of expectation. My desires, my needs are going to be fulfilled. You know, and it's not that I, you know, to be lazy or anything, but there is a natural law of attraction, and that's where the law of attraction comes from. Just look in your life and you can see what your law of attracting is attracting. So in the first part, and it's called the Dude Abides Principle. This is the basic principle, the foundation upon which all others rest. Basically what it says is, there is an invisible energy force or field of infinite possibilities. The experiment could best be described as an ultimatum. You're going to give the force exactly 48 hours to make its presence known. You're going to demand a clear, unmistakable sign, something that cannot be written off as coincident. And while I have the time, let's just go and find, because if this is the first one, then we need to know what that is. And again, get the book. If you can't afford it, let me know. I have the PDF of it. Let's see, goes in. Where is that first one at? Y'all just talk amongst yourself. I'm just scrolling through here. Okay. The greatest discovery and development of the coming years will be along spiritual lines. Here is a force which history clearly teaches has been the greatest power in the development of man in history. And yet we have been merely playing with it and have never seriously studied it as we have physical forces. Someday people will learn that material things do not bring happiness and are of little use in making men and women creative and powerful. Then the scientists of the world will turn their laboratories over to the study of spiritual forces. When this day comes, the world will see a more advancement in one generation than it has in the past 4, and I would probably say the past 400. So, experiment 1. Everyone else is waiting for eternity, and the shamans are saying, how about tonight? All right, the premise. This experiment will prove to you once and for all that there is a loving, abundant, totally hip force in the universe. Some people call it God. You can call it prana. the all there is, or Cosmos Kramer. I don't care. The problem up until now is we had to take this force on faith. We weren't allowed to see it or to touch it. But we've sure been asked to do a lot of things in its name, like tithe, meditate, and put ashes on our head. I much prefer the idea of an energy force that moves on two-way streets. Does give and take ring any bells? In this experiment, we're going to let the FP know that, baby, it's now or never. We are so over believing in something that gets its jollies playing freaking hide and seek. We want irrefutable proof, and we want it freaking now. You know those four initials, ASAP? Well, those are the ones we're shooting for. We are going to give the FP exactly 48 hours to give us a sign, a clear sign, a sign that cannot be written off. Neon would be preferably, but it would work. Because we brought this idea that the force is vague and mysterious, we don't really expect to find it. Or at least we're not surprised when we don't. In fact, I think most people are relieved that they don't. Most people, when it comes to occultism, paganism, or magic, are expecting it to fail. They want it to fail because, brother and sister, if it ever does prove to be what it really is, their whole world will be blown to smithereens. Their whole core of their cognitive construct will crumble. Can't handle that. Because we haven't been trained to notice this inspiring, energizing, life-altering force is zooming in and around and through us without our awareness. What, me? Wait? For those who want to wait for the pearly gates, go right ahead. It's like a modern day person refusing to use electricity. All you have to do to access the electricity is find an outlet, plug in an electronic devices or appliance, and voila. You get all sorts of cool stuff, toasted bread, music that pipes in from radio towers, movies, news, fellow humans eating slugs on desert islands. We have to retain ourselves to think of this energy force the same way we think of electricity. We don't wonder, am I good enough to plug my toaster oven into the outlet? Or have I prayed long enough or deep enough to deserve the right to flick on the kitchen lights? We don't feel guilty for wanting to turn on the radio and listen to NPR. The FP is just as non-prejudiced and available as electricity once we make the decision to really look for it. And it's not that hard to find. Anecdotal evidence. God is not the pushover that some people would like you to believe. In this section where we talk about the elephant in the room, yes, I'm talking about God. Unless you just crawled out from underneath a cabbage leaf, you've probably observed that an awful lot of people talk about this guy named God. 1 out of every 7 days is devoted to worshiping him. Building all of the shapes and sizes have been built to honor him. Many newspapers have a religious section right next to the political section, and the local news and the weather and the crossword puzzle. Some version of the dude, to borrow the moniker from a cult classic, The Big Lebowski, I love that movie, by the way, exists in every culture that has ever existed. Even physicists whose sole line of work is studying the properties and interactions of matter and energy know about the invisible force. Most of them do not call it God, Albert Einstein, for example, claimed no belief in the traditional God, but he sure as heck knew there was something a whole lot juicier out there in the cosmos. That juice, he said, was all that he really cared about. The rest, he claimed, was just details. God, most of us believe, is in an invention of man, fabricated for the sake of convenience. We accept this human-made God as an indisputable fact, but it makes no sense. If God is love, if God is perfect, if God is all of the other beneficent description we ascribe to him, why would we toss anyone into a lion's den? Furthermore, why would anyone in their right mind want to hook up to a capricious, unjust God who gets his jollies from punishing them? Even the dissiest of women know theoretically she shouldn't hang out with a guy who might hurt her. I mean, who needs it? God as a terrorist. I don't know if God exists, but it would certainly be better for his reputation if he didn't. Jules Renard, the French author. No sooner had I mastered my ABCs than I was taught that I, little Pammy Sue Grout, was a miserable sinner and had fallen short of the glory of God. It was a fact, some as 2 + 2 = 4, and elemental P is more than one letter in the alphabet. Lineup. The only redeeming part of all this important lesson is at least I wasn't alone. Turns out everybody else in the world is a sinner too. Even Mrs. Beckwith, my tender-hearted kindergarten teacher, who let me bring Pokey, my pet turtle, to class every other Monday. The bad thing about being a sinner is that it guarantees a one-way ticket to hell. It was a little hard getting a handle on hell, being I hadn't traveled much further than the Kansas border. But according to my dad, hell was not a place you wanted to be. It was hotter than my Aunt Gwen and hotter than Uncle Ted's house in Texas the summer their air conditioner broke. And unlike the vacation that ended after 4 days, you stay in hell for eternity. To understand eternity, he said, you think of how you felt last December 26th, waiting for Christmas again. Holy crap. The escape clause is that you can get saved, quote unquote. So when I was 4 years old, with the church organist playing Just As I Am, I walked into the front of my little Methodist church in Canton, Kansas, plopped down on my naughty little 4-year-old knees, and asked the good Lord to forgive me for my sins. My family, from a long line of Methodists, collectively breathed a sigh of relief. Dad and Mom called all the aunts and uncles that very night to broadcast the good news. Well, our oldest is officially saved now. They crowed proudly. At least we can be assured that Pam is going to heaven. The best part, they figured, was that my conversion couldn't help but set a good example for my sister, Becky, who was 2, and my brother, Bobby, who was only 3 months old, although I secretly hoped they would give him until he was at least old enough to talk. Of course, you didn't want to take any chances. I mean, Jesus could come back at any time, night or day. He's like a thief in the night. He could come in the morning while you were stirring circles in your Captain Crunch cereal. He could come at recess while you were hanging from your knees on the monkey bars, probably showing all the boys your panties. But like that hasn't happened. Yeah. He could even come at 2 in the morning while you were sleeping, which could be a real problem if you happened to be a heavy sleeper. Jesus could snatch you before you had time to get up the sleep out of your eyes. And that you didn't even want to think about. I mean, Aunt Gwen and Uncle Ted's house was hot. I can see I have gone over my time. All right, I'll just finish out this list. If you want the book, do this, and we may pick up and actually, see what happens. I love this story, though. It is so true life. At the same time I was learning to accept my true sinful identity, I was being told over and over again that God is love. Never mind that the churches present God as a sort of hidden camera that watched over everything I did. It made no rational sense. But of course, I was only 4. What the hell did I know? Even though I was yawningly close to being a perfect kid, I made straight A's, tried not to fight with my siblings, stayed away from drugs and alcohol, and even made my bed without being told. I felt I was constantly being critiqued by this loving God who was sitting up in heaven, gleefully rubbing his hands together whenever I screwed up, which, gosh darn it, oops, there I go again, using his name in vain, seemed to happen all the time. What a legacy to dump on an innocent child. All right, folks, get the book. We can look at this, but the experiments work. We'll continue to do it. You can see I've marked it up, but the reason why I love the book is that I know it works. All right, far out. Lost in Space, right back at you. You know what I really hope for this group? The one desire I have is to see you prosper. I get so many emails, and I thank you all. I mean, some of them make me cry. This group has helped a lot of people. Now, the emails are written to me, but, you know, it takes a group to make a family. And y'all are a family, and you've helped a lot of people, many, many people. You may not know it. You may not think that you're a part of it, but you are. If you've actively participated on this channel and you're a supporter of this channel and the people that are here, you're a part of this. And there is a reward to this. There really is. You share in it. I don't share in it just by myself. So there. Hey, Gaza. Gracie, good to see everyone. So what I'm trying to say to all of you, you have so much in your ethereal bank. Start accessing it. You've got more good karma built up than what you realize. More people have crossed over at peace because of this channel, because of you, this group. I mean, there's no greater honor a spirit being can have. I mean, if you want to talk about a crown, that's the crown of the crowns. So well done, everybody. Well done. You're living proof. Each and every one of you are the living proof. So yeah, well, more to the Steiger perspective. John, I got to tell you, it's too hot in the kitchen. It's Uncle Ted and Aunt Alice's house down there. Damn hot. Paul Joe, you're welcome. Lauren, how are you doing, my darling? Good to see you. All right, everyone. We're prospering, and that's prosperity. Now, that prosperity, if you will grab a hold of it, there is financial prosperity. There is actual money energy. You can literally grab a hold of it. We'll get into that more later. All right, so have y'all self a fabulous day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Until we meet again. Man, just dig it. Again, it's an honor to be with all of you. I'll put down my rubbing stone. It must be at least 98.6 degrees, right? All right. So thank you all. See y'all the next time we meet. Maybe tomorrow. It just depends. If not, definitely Monday. So if you're here in the northern part of the world, keep cool. If you're in the southern part, keep warm. You know, just put your hands on the monitor and you can feel it either way. All right, folks. Much love to y'all. We'll see.